Testing, testing, testing. Testing, testing.
Ready? Okay. I'd like to call to order the Sutter County Planning Commission meeting of November 4th, 2020. May I have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Davitt. Commissioner Emanuel. Present. Commissioner Dosher.
Present.
Commissioner Marlar. Here. Commissioner Stewart. Here. Commissioner Shannon. Here. Chairperson Silman.
Here. And with that, Commissioner Stewart will do our pledge. All right. So may I have approval of the minutes? Did you have opportunities? If there's any corrections, if none, may I ask for a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
All right, so we have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Any opposed? All right. So I'm going to open this public hearing. I'm going to introduce the item. Here I go with.
Oh, Madam Chair, if you want to give me a moment, let me go over to the podium, and then I can take over those duties for you.
You're going to do, oh, I love that, because it's long. It's like pages. Thank you.
So I'm going to abbreviate it. So these are Tier 2 entitlements for the Lakeside at Sutter Point within the Sutter Point specific plan in South Sutter County. This project has an applicant of South Sutter LLC, owners of South Sutter LLC, Riego 1700 LLC, Sankey 380 LLC, and TDW Enterprises. And an addendum to the Certified Final Environmental Impact Report is proposed. So what I'd like to do is I have a few housekeeping items I need to go over with you. And before we kind of get into the presentation. And I'm going to try to abbreviate my comments somewhat, only because the commission held a joint study session with the Board of Supervisors on the 21st, and I wasn't intending on going through all that same material again, but rather focusing on topics that we didn't talk about at that. So as far as housekeeping items, I did want to touch on, we handed out to you a memo before the start of tonight's meeting. And that memo talks about, so after your staff report was released, the applicant, staff, and the Pleasant Grove Joint Union School District had subsequent conversations. The district wants to make sure that obviously their interests are covered, and in the discussions we have agreed to amend some findings. So in your staff report in attachment 3, I believe it is, there's 2 sets of findings, non-CEQA findings and then CEQA findings. So it's the CEQA findings that we amended on page 17. And so we handed out a new copy to you. So you'd have that before you. But in the memo, we put in the changed language. And so I wanted to talk about that because it talks about, and this is important to the school district, because you'll notice in the discussion for Lakeside that there's 1 school site shown, but you'll see in the documentation that up to 2 school sites may be established. And so they want to note the actual size, number, and location of school sites will be set as set forth in the negotiated and approved supplemental mitigation agreement related to the school facilities pursuant to the Lakeside at Sutter Point tentative map condition number 53. If additional school capacity is ultimately needed to serve students from Lakeside, it may be addressed through participation in off-site facilities or additional on-site school facilities pursuant to the required supplemental mitigation agreements. Those are agreements between the property owner and the school district. So the county is kind of a third party in this regard. In any event, the proposed project would not result in any new or more significant impacts than were previously considered in the 2009 EIR and the 2014 addendum. I would note that in the memo, we also have a replacement condition 53. And I admit it's lengthy, I apologize for that, but it addresses the interests of both the district and the applicant. And so we've included that for you. And then finally, on page 3 of the memo, we have a new transportation condition that is proposed that clarifies when improvements to Riega Road along the property's frontage, meaning the widening of Riega Road to 4 lanes, will be installed. It is intended that this condition will be added to the list of conditions, and they will be renumbered as needed for the Board of Supervisors staff report. So that's why we haven't attached a number yet to it, but we wanted to include that. So you got the memo, the CEQA findings, and then we also handed out a printout of 4 letters of support that we received. I think you may have gotten the one from the Chamber of Commerce in your staff report packet, but we did receive a letter from the Sutter Economic Development Corporation. And I can either just reference it, or if you want me to read it, I can certainly do that. We also received a letter of support from Golden State Water Company, from Paul Schubert. And I'd finally like to reference a letter of support from a neighbor to the north of Lakeside, the proposed project, by Mark and Rocky Stevenson.
We'll just file.
So what I'm going to do is go through a series of maps, probably fairly quickly, some of which I think, or most you've already seen before. As you know, Sutter Point's in South Sutter County. It's in a good location strategically for development in Placer County for near Roseville and development in Placer County. It's along 2 important transportation corridors, Highway 99 close to I-5, as well as the Sacramento International Airport. And as you may remember, the specific plan was originally approved in 2009. In 2014, the Board of Supervisors approved a amendment to the specific plan, in fact, an area subject to what is Lakeside. And so it shifted some colors around. Originally, it was envisioned to have a golf course, but that concept went away. You see the lake facilities there showed up in 2014, which kind of laid the groundwork for the Lakeside project that we have pending tonight. The boundaries of the property that are shown here, and that matches the assessor parcel numbers, which are, I think, probably 4 or 5 of them. And that comprises the 873.5 acres. In the land use plan for Lakeside, you'll see a number of lighter yellow color, that's low density residential, kind of a gold color, and even a darker gold color, is going to be medium density, and then the darker gold is the cluster housing. Let's see if I can. There. So there's the cluster housing, medium density residential, as long as over here, and we have high density residential. A summary of the acreage is on the right there. So out of the 873.5 acres of land under the application, 622 are for residential, providing for 3,787 dwelling units. You might remember that Sutter Point allows for a maximum of 17,500 dwelling units under the plan. 399 of the units under Lakeside would be high-density units. And you'll also notice under employment uses. So there's 25 acres of commercial and 44.8 acres of employment. Those areas would be located here, right along Riega Road, near one of the main entrances into Lakeside, as well as at the very north end of the plan. Now, one thing that's important to note is that back in 2009, it was originally envisioned there would be a much larger phase 1 development that would include a lot more employment uses. Let's see if I can go back. So originally, the phase 1, if you were to flip to the back of the specific plan, there was a conceptual phase 1, and it showed that there was going to be a much larger area centered around the interchange down there, and then there was going to be a large area of employment uses of several hundred acres. But the ownership group changed, and we have 2 active developers here today, Lennar and Wynn Communities, and so the land that they own is the Lakeside area, and so they're is much less employment uses than we originally envisioned. So I remember hearing some references back on October 21st about the, I think there was some references to this was going to start the 7,500 acres. Well, it's within the 7,500 acres, but it's really limited to 873.5 acres. Okay, so I want to just make sure we keep that in context. And then community facilities, you'll see parks, open space, school K through 8, and then public and quasi-public uses, 135.1 acres. I want to draw your attention to the school site, and that would be right here, 16 acres. It was in our discussions over the last couple of days with the school district where they made us aware that the state requirements will actually require a 20-acre site, not 16. So that number, you're going to see some numbers shift around a little bit to make that 20 acres. So this is a copy of the large lot map from your packet. It shows I believe it's 57 large lots that are proposed. And it's important, the large lots aren't the lots that you and I would buy as home buyers. These are large lots that can later be mapped into small lots and then sold off. So when this is recorded, you could they could sell this to other merchant home builders who could come in and develop consistent with the project approvals and the development agreement that's ultimately approved. The south end of Lakeside is the phase 1, where you'll see the layout, the lake feature. That's where we have about 1,200 dwelling units that's proposed in Lakeside in this initial phase 1. And this is where you would start seeing the building start to occur first. Then this next slide shows some of the park amenities that surround Lakeside. I'm going to kind of gloss over that a little bit just because they're important features, but I know that the applicant wants to highlight some of those with you in their presentation. I did want to touch on the infrastructure needed to serve Lakeside. We did talk about these, but I think it's worth reiterating. In your packets, you got the infrastructure master plans, as well as the sign-offs from all the providers, and we thought that was important to provide to you. So water will be supplied by 3 groundwater wells, and that was always envisioned in the specific plan. Golden State Water is going to be the water purveyor, and they provided a letter of support for the application tonight. And so not only did the master plan updates get reviewed by the service providers, but we also had an outside consultant named Kimley Horn. They provided some outside peer review of these documents for the county. And then any comments were addressed and incorporated into it. The wastewater line. So back in 2017, the county approved an environmental impact report for the Sutter Point wastewater conveyance project. We also entered into an agreement with the Sacramento County Regional Sanitation District called Regional SAN, as well as the Sacramento Area Sewer District, abbreviated SASD. So if approved, the sewer force main would have to be constructed about 7 miles from Sacramento County up into Sutter Point. Although the map shows here 14 inches through negotiations with the applicant, they're proposing now to upsize that to 18 inches, which is going to provide the county with some additional capacity that we can use for non-residential uses that the county would like to see developed out in the area. And the service providers, again, reviewed the master plans, as well as Kimley Horn peer-reviewed those and got sign-offs from both for that. I want to touch on drainage. So ultimately, drainage is going to be handled by collected on site through a typical city drop inlets and then conveyed to the lake system that you see in Lakeside. At the very south end, you will see a pump station, which water would be metered out into a 42-inch pipe that would go approximately 1,800 feet to the west underground, and it would terminate at an existing RD-1000 canal. And they are going to be the ones to handle the drainage flows. I did think it was important to include a slide for pedestrian circulation. It's provided not only around the lake in the communities, and up here in the legend, it talks about whether it's separated walks around the the lake itself, and the overall connectivity from, you can go from the southernmost lake up to the north end of the project. So I did want to touch on some of the issues that we did not discuss at the study session, and that is the specific plan amendments. So there are several amendments proposed to the specific plan with this application, including clarifying that the Board of Supervisors' authority to amend land use lots and allocation of land use designations until they are vested with development agreements, amending the land use designations within Lakeside to match that shown on the land use plan, increasing the allowable density of low-density residential from a maximum of 4 units to the acre up to 5 units per acre, and increasing the minimum allowable density in medium-density residential from 4.1 to 5.1 dwelling units per acre. And part of the reason for that is, I think as you heard at the study session, the infrastructure costs to get this project up and running are significant. And one way to do that is to be able to increase the density somewhat to allow for additional homes. So you can spread that cost over an area. The increase in density provides an increase of 592 dwelling units above the that which was originally contemplated in that area. However, it is within the 17,500 dwelling units that is allowed within the specific plan. So we think it is still allowable. Another important item to highlight is the county has been working with, on a staff level, with the representatives from Placer County as well as City of Roseville to talk about the widening of Riego Road and Baseline from the City of Roseville out to the Riego Road interchange. And they have certain standards that are already in place, of which ours is a little bit different. So one of the changes you'll see in your staff report was changing the median dimension in the specific plan from the center median from 32 feet on Riego Road to 14 feet, because that matches their development standards to the east. We also thought it was important to clarify that certain specific plan exhibits are conceptual in nature and subject to future entitlement processing. And the reason why that is important is because we found that processing this project, that when you alter land use designations on the proposed application, there's a ripple effect and you have to end up changing multiple exhibits. And we want to get away from that. It's very cumbersome and kind of clunky to try to implement the specific plan. So it's envisioned that a lot of the exhibits are going to be more conceptual in nature. So that way we don't have to go back and amend between 5 and 8 maps every time someone comes forward. An important change that we wanted to highlight is establishing a new section in Chapter 10 of the specific plan for implementation, and it will capture key information as development projects come online to be able to, so not just staff, but applicants and the public could go to see as the specific plan rolls out and is developed. It kind of will show a progression of how things are being built out, and it's in a concise area so that you could find quick information. The rezone that matches, that's in your staff report, matches the land use designations. That's the key area for the rezoning. You might not know this or might not remember this, but Sutter Point has its own land use and development code, separate from the traditional county zoning code, because the development in Sutter Point is going to be very different from the typical development that we see in the unincorporated county. So the changes proposed for the document, which is abbreviated LUDC, would change the densities, as I mentioned earlier, under the specific plan amendments, as well as amending the definition of a lot to reduce the minimum frontage requirement on streets from 50 feet to 40 feet. The 50 feet comes from the county in the unincorporated area. 40 feet is more applicable to a suburban community. So we wanted to take that and will allow for shared private drives that are maintained by a homeowners association and provide for appropriate access. We've touched on the small and large lot maps. I also want to talk to you about the subdivision ordinance amendments. And so, as you can imagine, most of the divisions of land that we see subject to the subdivision ordinance are in the unincorporated area with the state residential or agricultural land. which is very different from what we have here. So we need to amend some of our subdivision ordinance standards to accommodate a suburban community. And those, and we list those out on page 5 of your staff report, and those include establishing minimum lot widths also of less than 50 feet. Distances between intersecting streets would be reduced to less than 200 feet. Allow dead-end stub street or alleys, T-court, I-court lot configurations with private shared alleys or driveway access, and allow homes with zero public street frontage with private shared alleys or driveways. The idea is some of the cluster housing, medium-density residential that I pointed out to you, those are going to be for starter homes, first-time home buyers, and this provides flexibility that we're trying to build into the specific plan. So when developers come in with building permits for different housing types, we can provide the most wide-ranging opportunities that are available. And all the changes still have to meet fire code requirements. One thing I wanted to touch on with you is the affordable housing requirement. So, as you know, Chapter 1600 of the county's ordinance code provides for affordable housing, and also that's addressed in Chapter 7 of the specific plan. The affordable housing ordinance has a requirement of 5% of housing projects of 10 or more dwelling units be set aside for moderate or low income housing types, or for very low income housing as affordable rental units. The specific plan provides for 3,000 senior housing units, of which this application proposes to utilize up to 1,000 of the plans, 3,000 senior housing units as part of an active adult community. Due to the large infrastructure costs to get this project off the ground, the applicants are proposing, instead of on-site construction, to dedicate 11.1 acre multifamily zone property at the north end of the development. That would allow for a affordable housing site to be developed in the future. It would include utilities being stubbed to the site. And if development is already occurring out there, then that would also include some sidewalk improvements and the like. The details of the dedication of land and the utility requirements are actually found in the Tier 2 development agreement, which would be attachment 23, I think. We believe that the applicant's proposal to establish the 1,000, up to 1,000 units as part of an active adult community, combined with the proposed offer of land dedication, which is provided for as an alternative to on-site construction, is consistent with the county's ordinance as well as specific plan policy 7.1-3. So the one thing I also want to talk to you about is the environmental document. So 2009, the county adopted an environmental impact report for the entire 7,500 specific plan. In 2014, the Board of Supervisors approved an amendment for this very area, and an addendum to that EIR was adopted for that. And for this project, an addendum is also proposed. So forgive me, I need to read some technical language into the record. Changes introduced by Lakeside would not, as compared to the 2009 EIR and the 2014 addendum to the EIR, result in new significant impacts or significant impacts that are substantially more severe than significant impacts previously disclosed. There is no new information or substantial importance showing that the proposed Lakeside project would have one or more significant effects that would have previously discussed, or any previously examined significant effects would be substantially more severe than were addressed in the EIR in 2009 or the 2014 addendum. Therefore, staff is recommending that the Planning Commission recommend the Board of Supervisors adopt an EIR addendum and mitigation monitoring and reporting program for the Lakeside project. The addendum and MMRP are included as attachments 7 and 8 to your staff report. Now, with regard to environmental review, I think I would be remiss if I didn't mention the Natomas Basin Habitat Conservation Plan. That was established in the early 2000s. It's a plan that Sutter County and the city of Sacramento are signatories to. Sutter County is allowed to have 7,462 acres or 67 acres of development under the HCP, which is our area, Sutter Point. And so the goal of the HCP is to create a system of reserves of wetlands and upland components that will contribute to the maintenance of viable populations of giant garter snake, Swainson hawk, and other covered species within the Natomas Basin. Now, the Lakeside project is required to dedicate a half acre of mitigation land for every acre of development. The development project would also be required to pay HCP fees and comply with other requirements of the HCP that include pre-construction biological surveys, the timing of when grading can occur, tree preservation, among other things. So the one thing I did want to talk to you about as one of the final things is I wanted to talk about, so if Lakeside is approved, how do we make sure that what is being proposed will actually get built and carried out? Well, there's probably five different points I'd like to touch on with you. And that would be, one, the approved master plans. That's infrastructure, financial, and community design. Those are the before you. Number two would be the establishment of that new section 10 in the specific plan to monitor key information as development proceeds. Number three would be conditions of approval. I didn't really talk about it earlier, but there's 65 conditions that range from addressing general procedural issues to implementing planning and zoning. A number of engineering items are included as conditions, which are improvement agreements, transportation conditions, wastewater, water supply, drainage, grading, flood control, dry utilities. There's also conditions that pertain to public health and safety, parks, open space, and public spaces, schools. There's 2 separate conditions for schools, one for each school district. Financing urban services in compliance with mitigation measures. And if that wasn't enough, we have the mitigation monitoring and reporting program, which is attachment 8 to your staff report, is a wonderful 104-page document that carries forward the applicable mitigation measures from the 2009 EIR together with necessary mitigation to address the impacts resulting from the Lakeside project. So there's a lot of information there. And last, I was going to touch on the development agreement, and I wanted to note that we provided the commission with a draft of the development agreement, and that agreement is still being negotiated. I absolutely foresee revisions being made between now and when this goes before the Board of Supervisors. So don't look at the agreement that was provided in your staff report as the absolute final version of the document. But the development agreement is a contractual agreement, which was included as attachment 23 in your staff report between the county and the applicants. It addresses issues that don't necessarily fit in as a project condition or mitigation measure. A DA strives to provide certainty and predictability to each party. Some of the issues that are included in the proposed DA include the applicant's oversizing of wastewater capacity and the county's ability to utilize a portion of it, the equivalent of 2,086 dwelling units, for non-residential job-generating uses. The reservation of utility capacity created by the applicant so that it isn't used by other developers that may come in after the project is approved. Complying with the affordable housing obligation and the dedication of the 11.1 acre affordable housing site are also contemplated in the DA. Needed county facilities are discussed, as well as interim facilities that needed, urban services that are required, including advanced funding by the applicants of those costs. And then the timing, dedication, and acceptance of improved parkland and open space is also discussed. The school mitigation agreement, that, as I said earlier, that's a private agreement between the school districts and the applicants. However, we have an item in the development agreement that talks about we need to have the final one, an executed agreement required prior to the recordation of the first small lot map. So prior to this first small lot map, they're going to have to iron out the details with both school districts. And finally, the Riego Road interchange and backbone roadway infrastructure reimbursement is discussed within the Tier 2 DA. So as you can imagine, this project isn't done by one person or a handful of people. It was actually quite a collaborative effort over the last couple years almost. And so I just wanted to say thanks to a few people here. Wanted to mention thank you to Carol Shirley. She has 20 years experience working for the city of Sacramento as their planning director, and she helped build out involved with the build out in the Thomas. And so she's very familiar with these type of plans. And so her experience and input was invaluable. So thank you, Carol. I also want to say thank you to Christina Irwin from Environmental Science Associates. Christina and her team wrote the environmental document as well as mitigation monitoring and reporting program. And then when we thought we weren't done with it, we made her redo it again. So I appreciate her patience. Also want to say thank you to my two favorite economists, Jamie Gomes and Ellen Martin from Economic and Planning Systems, EPS. They created all the financial documents that are before you. And Jamie got up and gave a presentation on the finance component back on October. We have that presentation here if you wish to go over any of the nuances of that. Also wanted to thank the county's outside counsel that's helping us on the development agreement, Jeff Mitchell and Olivia Clark. Also want to give thanks to Kimley Horn's staff for their peer reviewing of the infrastructure master plans, as well as the applicant team, Jeff Carpenter and Tim Denham from Wood Rogers. Jeff's here tonight, and he has been great to work with. And Tim Denham has been great because planning out the land use plan for this project. Also, Dave Robinson with Fair and Peers on the traffic study. So as you can see, I have quite an army of people here who can answer just about any question you can come up with. Also want to give thanks to Nick Avedis, counsel for the applicant. He's been very instrumental in helping develop findings and working through issues that have come up. And then finally, I just want to say thanks to Lennar and Wind Communities for submitting this application and allowing us to help get Sutter Point off the ground after many years. So with that would conclude my comments. I'm happy to answer any questions now, or you may want to just wait until after the applicant maybe gives their presentation. And then you could ask questions.
All right, we'll do that. All right.
So with that, I would, I guess, call up George Carpenter with Wind Communities.
Perfect. Thank you. Yes. Oh, okay. Steve, can you do that for us? Thanks. Thank you. I feel sorry for that one person out there. I'm sure we can have them sit up here if they want. Oh, well. There's one person out there. Yeah. Oh, is there? Okay, sorry. Hi, George.
Hi, Madam Chair and members of the Commission. I'm George Carpenter from Wind Communities. Thanks for having me here tonight. I want to thank Doug for that very thorough presentation. That presentation is indicative of the effort that he put in over the last 18 months as we worked our way through this project. And so just want to say thanks again to Doug for all his hard work. I'm here tonight on behalf of the Lennar Wind Partnership, and our partnership has done a number of projects throughout the Sacramento region over the last 20 years. We've probably developed over 20,000 home sites. We have a track record of being able to do these types of projects and make them successful. Our partner Lennar is one of the nation's leading home builders. It's a Fortune 500 company, and so we feel very fortunate to be able to have this opportunity to bring this project forward. Doug introduced most of our team that is here tonight. I also want to mention that we have Larry Gualco from Lennar, Vice President at the local office in Roseville, and Tom Wynn, the President of Wind Communities, are both here with us tonight. One thing I wanted to mention about Doug, thanking staff and everybody working through this, the hardest work has been done since last March, and we've done it all via Zoom and via video conference, and it has been a real challenge, but I just want to thank everybody who really put in the effort. You know, we have people tonight who are on listening through the video conference virtually. It's great to be here. This is 16 years ago, this election that Measure M was approved, 60-40, that said, we need jobs in South Sutter County, but we recognize the only way to do it is with a balanced community. You can have houses, but you can have jobs, but you got to bring it with houses that build infrastructure. The problem at the time was there was no sewer. Sutter County had amended its general plan to create a 10,500 acre industrial commercial reserve area, but it got sued because it didn't have a sewer system and a way to pay for sewer. This is an outline of my presentation tonight, and I'm going to hit on some topics, a couple topics that I hit on at the study session, but cover a lot of things that I didn't really cover at the prior study session. I want to talk about the planning principles that really guided our land plan, talk about the context of what's happening in the region, and then about the infrastructure and facilities that we're going to be building. I showed this slide at the study session, but I think it's worth repeating. And this is where Sutter Point is at the southern tip of Sutter County. That red line is 23 miles up to Bogue Road, and it's on Highway 99. It's a 2-lane road. Yes, there's a couple of stoplights, but it's a pretty straight shot right there. And people who live in South Yuba City can get to jobs pretty quick in Sutter Point. It's it's well located next to the Sacramento Airport, just 2 miles to the south. It's got access to I-5, I-80. It makes it really attractive to future employers to go there. But the problem remains the infrastructure. There's no sewer there. I showed this slide also at the study session. This is what's happening in the region, and it shows you that Sutter Point right now, you drive down Highway 99, you come to Rego Road, there's nothing. But just south of Sutter Point is the Grand Park project right here, which is over 10,000 homes proposed in northern Sacramento County. Then there's the Alberta specific plan that's got 5,000 homes approved there, and they're in tentative maps. Above that's Placer Vineyards with another 14,000. Roseville's moved out to Watt Avenue. It's going to keep coming. And so I show you that because there is a lot happening around Sutter Point, and it's important to understand the context of what's going on there. This was a slide to give you a little more about the local geography and what's happening right around Sutter Point. The red area there is what's called Metro Air Park. That's a 1,300-acre industrial park that is right next to the Sacramento Airport. It's been approved for probably 20 years, and it's finally starting to see success out there. It's got an 800,000 square foot Amazon building. There's a 1 million square foot logistics building that's under construction. It's got over 2 million square feet that are either under construction or built, and it's because they have access to I-5 and they have access to utilities there. Just north of that 2 miles is the Sutter Point employment area, and that is right up here. And that is the main employment area just west of Highway 99 at the southeast corner of 99 and Rego Road. And that's an area that the county is very interested in and trying to bring jobs to. And then I point out Lakeside, which is just on the other side of Highway 99 over here. It's the reason that we want to talk about this is that to get Sutter Point engaged, it needs the infrastructure. This is the land plan that Doug showed you and where our property is on the east side of the plan area. The yellow represents the housing and the purple represents the employment centers. And when I get to a slide here in a minute, it'll I want to go back one. That'll become a little more relevant. But the one point I wanted to make about the difference in the phase one that Doug talked about is when Sutter Point was approved in 2009, of the 7,500 acres, 6,000 acres was either under option or owned by development interests. And so phase one certainly looked a lot different because there were a lot of people at the table. Now there's only one developer left. We have 875 acres. And so we're really trying to bring a balanced community. And so that brings us to the Lakeside Community Plan. 873 acres. Doug went through the statistics of all the different land uses. And what we tried to do is just bring a balanced plan to the area. And so we have a whole range of different types of uses from the single family. We have the retail and employment center. We have the parks and open space, and we have a school. It's the soft infrastructure you need in addition to the hard infrastructure to really build a community. The area in the south is the phase one that Doug talked about. That's where we're starting. And then if that is successful, we'll continue on with tentative maps to engage in the phase two and the phase three area. The one thing that drives this land plan, and I want to leave the slide up here for a second, you can see the blue, how it's kind of off to the left side of the map or the west side. And that's because a lot of this land plan was driven by drainage. That's the natural fall, and there is a canal that those lakes dump into. This is the phase one area, and Doug really talked about the different types of the housing here. We are looking at 8 different lot sizes throughout the entire Lakeside so we can have a range of home sizes. In this first phase, we were able to achieve 7 of those different 8 lot sizes, so we really tried to have a variety. And then you'll notice right in the heart of phase one is our employment center. As we were designing Lakeside, we wanted to try to get a highly amenitized community where people would want to live, work, and play and start a business. And so we really tried to center it around the concept of this lake and the trails and the parks and a clubhouse. It's the first thing we looked at was when you arrive at Lakeside, that you really know that you're someplace special. We have a community design master plan that has come up with landscaping themes, monumentation, so that when you get to Lakeside, you know where you're at. As you drive through the community, it looks like it was well planned and well thought out. The main feature is the lake, and we really spent a lot of time trying to make that our key feature. In the original land plan, it kind of had more fingers, and what we tried to do was improve its function and just enhance its value. We moved it down to Rigo Road so that as you drive east on Rigo Road, you have a window right into the community. Passers-by get a really nice impression, and they say, hey, this is really a neat place to be. We widened it out so that it functioned a little better and you could interact with it a little better. And then you can see where each of the entry points into the lake community terminate with a view of the lake. So when you get there, you arrive and you say, hey, I am at some place that's really cool. Right here is the main entrance to Lakeside. And just on the top side, right where the arrow's pointing, is a 2.6 acre site where we intend to build a community center or a clubhouse. And these are pictures of successful ones we've done in Anatolia and Rancho Cordova, in Laguna, in Elk Grove. The one in the upper right-hand corner is from Heritage, a successful active adult community in Sacramento. And then the lower left-hand corner is from El Dorado Hills, the Blackstone community that Lennar has been very successful with and just finishing building out now. And these act as a community gathering place, a place with recreational programming. You take classes. They're really hot spots. You go to them in the middle of the summer, and there's kids swimming and just all kinds of stuff. They're really active places. You might have questions about the housing types and prices, sizes, floor plans. It's a little early for us to know that, but we are working with one of the largest home builders. They're very sophisticated. They know how to market housing. They know how to adapt their housing to the changing needs of the home buyer. And what we are committed to doing is having the widest range of housing possible so that employers know that their employees can live near where they work. So managers can live there, executives can live there, but also employees can live there. And so we're really trying to have a wide range of housing opportunities with the soft infrastructure to make the community work. I want to talk a little bit more about the non-residential part of the community. And so in the southern end is this 26.8 acre employment center. And then we also have an 8.9 acre retail center right here. And these are going to be the front door of the community. And so we're really interested in engaging this area early on in the process. Then up at the northern end up here is a 34 acre commercial employment center that is intended to be more part of the North Activity Center, and it's going to be next to the North Employment Village, which is where Holt and Cisco are part of. And so we think it could really tie nicely into that area, into the future development that happens up on Sankey Road as the plan area builds out. Back down to this area at the south, it really was an important area to us, and so the top image here is a multi-story office building to give you a sense of what you might see along Rigo Road. We're looking at multi-story office buildings, and then the image that you see right here gives you. We said, we want to get an idea of what this thing's going to look like, and so we had an artist do a rendering for us. And so you can see in the foreground there's a retail along Rigo Road. There's a grocery store there, and what we wanted to do was we said, even though we have an idea what this is going to look like, we probably ought to get an idea of what we could actually build here. So we had an architect lay it out, and this is schematic, but just to give us an idea of what the yield might be. And so on the purple here, which is the employment area, it's almost 400,000 square feet of office R&D flex space. That could accommodate 1,000 jobs just right there. That site is going to have infrastructure and access very early on. And then the retail center is can accommodate 75,000 square feet, which would be a grocery store and retail space. So this could be a really actively engaged area. The other thing about this property is it's about 45 acres. And so if we were able to land a big user, somebody said, hey, I want to build a big building here, bring a big employer here, we could turn that into a campus. And that was part of the original vision of this East Activity Center, is this could be a campus area. The multifamily that's here, we could then move into phase 2 and accommodate it elsewhere. So this is a really flexible site that's going to have infrastructure early on, so real early on opportunity for jobs. In the prior presentation, I talked about parks, trails, and open space. It's the #1 amenity that new home buyers are interested in. And to build the parks to support Lakeside is going to be $33 million. And I'll just quickly go through each of the different types of parks. As you look at this exhibit, you can see the lake here. We really tried to make the lake part of the entire experience with the little pocket parks, 6 of them around the lake, a 1.5 mile trail that goes all the way around the lake that you can walk around, and really tried to make this an amenity to accommodate the new home buyer. With people fleeing the urban core, trying to get to more open space, we just think it really fits into that setting. It's a visual amenity. It's an experiential amenity. You can go out and kayak on it. You can see it as you walk around. I talked a little bit about the parks. This is the 1 acre pocket parks. These are programmed for just short use. Little tot lot, fitness area, barbecues. We have 2 neighborhood parks. One of them is a little bit larger. It's 4 acres, can be programmed with athletic fields. The smaller one's going to be right next to where the clubhouse is going to be. And then we have the community park, which is 13 acres. It's at the north end. It's expandable so that if adjacent developers develop and the county wants to turn it into a regional park, it could accommodate that. We will implement these park facilities through park development agreements that we work with staff on the actual programming, the timing, instruction, phasing, the maintenance, and all those sorts of things. I want to thank the Sheriff Barnes and Chief Shalowitz for their work on helping us come up with the public safety facilities. They have their normal public safety jobs they have to do, but they spent time working with us on doing some of the planning and figuring out the cost to build the public facilities and the staffing of Lakeside. Early on, we're going to have to build an interim fire station that'll also act as an interim sheriff substation. And then long-term, we'll be building a 6,000 square foot permanent fire station / substation that can accommodate both fire and sheriff. There'll be a communications tower down there, and that's going to cost about $6 million to build. And Doug mentioned the early on funding for training and equipment to get the staff up and working. Schools, I want to thank the Pleasant Grove School District and Lindsay for coming tonight, the district has worked with us to come up with conditions of approval so that we can keep the project moving, and they spent quite a bit of time on that. There's still some work to do, and we appreciate the opportunity to continue working with the school district, and their conditions are in front of you tonight for consideration. There's going to be other public facilities. The parks, in addition to the parks, there's going to be libraries, government center, and a courtyard. We're not going to generate enough demand for those, but we are going to be paying fees into a program that once there is the demand, the county will have our share of the funds to be able to build those facilities. They'll collect the rest of the funds from the other builders who follow us. And then we'll also be paying about $7 million into the countywide fee program that goes for criminal justice, animals, animal control, and health and human services. Doug talked about all the various pieces of the public infrastructure that are needed, but the 2 big things that have always been the Achilles heel of bringing jobs to South Sutter County have been having an interchange at Rigo Road and the sewer line. The interchange is built. It was finished in 2013. The developers paid the local share portion of that, and it's got a lot of capacity, so that can handle a lot of development out here. We also are widening Rigo Road about 1 mile. It's along our project frontage. Doug talked about that in the condition of approval that was added today. And it doesn't change anything in what we were proposing to build, but just clarifies the 4-laning will be done as part of the 3rd signalization there. The real engineering feat is the sewer line that Doug talked about. It was what knocked out the 2002 plan. After that, after Sutter Point was, or Lakes, Measure M was approved in 2004, we worked with the Regional County Sanitation District to get a principles of agreement in 2009 where they said, yes, we will serve your area, and it outlined the big picture that was then the basis for the 2017 agreement that Doug talked about, that talked about how it's going to be built, how it'll be designed, who will maintain it. It's a real engineering feat. For those that were at the study session, I talked about how it goes down into Alberta, into Natomas, underneath the Sacramento River, into West Sacramento, back under the river, and into Sacramento County, into Elk Grove. We are proposing to oversize it to, as Doug said, to accommodate non-residential development. The cost for the backbone infrastructure and the oversizing is going to be about $28 million. And but it does provide an opportunity for when jobs come, they can be able to connect to it. I just showed this. It's an aerial of the wastewater treatment plant in Elk Grove where you flush a toilet in South Sutter County. That's where it ends up. I stole that from a supervisor at the study session.
That was good, yeah.
What's important to know about the building of the sewer line, though, and the oversizing that we did, is that it can accommodate probably up to 30 million millions of square feet of industrial space, and we estimated 30,000 jobs that could be accommodated. And so it's really, we think it's a great opportunity for the county. This here is the most important slide, as Doug and I both talked about the infrastructure. This totals it all up between the infrastructure, the public facilities, and the fees we have to pay. We're at about $178 million. That doesn't include any of the subdivision in-tract improvements, any of the housing, the cost to build the housing. And then you add on the cost of the parks to this, and we're over $200 million. It's a lot of money. It's something we think we can do. Doug mentioned the implementation steps. There are a number of steps that we still need to do to be able to get the project off the ground. But we think this is doable. And so that's why we're here tonight, and we're asking for your support and recommendation to the Board of Supervisors. Finally, from a scheduling standpoint, if we get this approved this year, we could start improvement plans and engineering next year, underground construction in 2022, and be going vertical in 2023. That all depends on what the market does, what unemployment does, what interest rates do, but it is a schedule that we think is certainly reasonable. And we were asked about the build out of Lakeside Phase 1, and we estimated that's about 4 to 6 years if we average 200 to 300 homes per year. So with that, I will finish my presentation and thank the Planning Commission for the study session and the opportunity tonight to present.
Okay. Commissioners, open to ask questions? Yep.
Mr. Libby, first of all, thanks for your presentation tonight. It put some clarity to some questions I had. And thank you on behalf of the commissioners for clarification that this is a still in process, good faith negotiation DA, and that reimbursements for certain items such as the interchange are still under good faith negotiations. I just wanted to bring that up. That clarified things for me. Thank you.
Okay. Is there anyone else? Commissioner Stewart?
I had saying I appreciate all the work that the staff has done, presenting the various components of a very complex project. It's kind of exciting to have nothing out there and all of a sudden there's going to be people and jobs and everything, which certainly would help the county as well as just the whole region. But I have some questions about water. So I don't know who I should address that to.
Do we have a water person?
Well, I could try taking
I'm sure
that,
you probably can answer.
but then again, as long as I can be offered a lifeline to phone a friend if needed.
Hold on, George.
Absolutely.
You might have to phone you.
All right. I was reading through that, and certainly with, I don't know how many, we had 23 attachments for tonight or something, and some of them quite lengthy. I may have some of these facts not quite right, but I read about 3 different water plans that first started out. And 2 of those plans were a mixture of ground and surface water. And the only difference is when they were going to draw the surface water, what time of the year from the Sacramento River. And then I read further, and you added even the 4. I thought I had heard at our joint meeting that there was going to be 6 wells put out there. You said 3 now tonight, so I had that wrong. But then other parts of the information provided us, I saw an entry that there could be as many as 16. That, I'm thinking, is that for full build-out? That's not just Lakeside.
See heads.
So, couple things. So when the plan was originally approved in 2009, it was always envisioned that the first couple of phases of development would be served by a groundwater solution. And then when you get into subsequent phases of development, that you would have a conjunctive use program, which means bringing over surface water from the Sacramento River with groundwater. So the 3 wells are what's proposed initially. More wells may be needed. And I would say that when you have a large development project like this, the state law requires a water supply assessment be prepared. And the goal of a water supply assessment is to demonstrate that the project has a viable water source. And the state law requires over a 20-year period. And the, trying to locate the water supply assessment, that was attachment 22 in your staff report. One of the remarkable things about the water supply assessment that was prepared is that it shows that development of this project consumes less water than the agriculture that occurs out there today. And you got to keep in mind that rice is farmed out there. And so, but the switching it over, when you look at the efficiencies that have happened to homes over the last 20 years in plumbing fixtures, that it was kind of remarkable to me to find out that the project would actually use less water than the agriculture. So the water supply assessment kind of wrote itself, so to speak. So we do actually have a representative from Golden State Water here in the audience, if you wanted to ask them some questions, or the applicant is also here, if you have further detailed questions.
You brought out one thing that I read, and I couldn't hardly believe it, that you put houses out there and the groundwater is going to rise instead of fall. I thought that was tremendous, because then that's a long time of development that their water is going to be available for a lot of different uses. There was one other thing that came out in all of the things about, in 2014, the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act. And about keeping, preventing an overdraft of the subbasin that's out there. But also they said that there was a report that is due, and Sutter County is one of the GSAs that has to go out there and make a plan for, I think, is it January next year? Does this development at Sutter Point have any impact on that report that has to be issued?
That's one where I probably would have to phone a friend on that one. So the county does have those things. It's actually our engineering division who oversees that. And I have not had any direct communication. They're aware of the project, but I haven't had any recent communication that there would be issues. I know our director is out there, Neil Hay, and I don't know if Neil, if you had any other information on that.
Here he comes.
He comes.
Hi, good evening. Yeah, I'm Neil Hay, Director of Development Services. And yes, the county does have actually 3 groundwater agencies that we're party to. This one is with essentially Placer County and is part of the North American Subbasin is what it's called. And yeah, we do have an engineer and stuff. And I will say in general, yes, and the project has their consultants can come and speak in more detail and stuff. But yeah, this project and that subbasin, it's a cooperative effort between the water agencies and the water companies for the agricultural areas of the county down there that are being administered, and those aquifers, are being looked at and are having to be incorporated into the plan. Because of the size of the basin and stuff. The Placer County actually is the lead agency in kind of managing the work, and the consultants that are coordinating that GSA. And we have more of a, I'll say, a much minor role in it and stuff. But this project and its impacts, yeah, do have to be incorporated into that GSA. And if you'd like more information, I mean, yeah, we can have the consultants for the plan. The Golden State Water Company that's providing water for this, yeah, they essentially attend the meetings and have representatives, and they as well, their use and their system will have to be incorporated into the GSA's plan.
I guess the only question I have is, with that is, there's no problem with meeting the requirements of having the report done in, was it, I don't know, I saw it January 22nd or something, I'm not sure.
Right, it's, I want to say, I believe it's January of 2022. And so the county is, it's like, say, so the county is part of, there's 3 GSAs, like I mentioned, and essentially each, I'll say, sub-basin had to go through a selection process with consulting firms. And so there are consultants that are doing the work. And yeah, all the plans are on schedule to be done. This one is, I'll say, is certainly in very good shape because of the amount of development that's taking place, for example, in Placer County and stuff. And there's only a small portion of it that comes into Sutter County. The other GSAs, there's a main one in Sutter County, and it has certainly a lot more challenges. But yeah, the consultant does expect to meet the deadline. They all do, since it's a state mandated deadline, and the state is not providing any extension due to COVID.
Okay, thank you.
Is that it? Okay. Commissioner Shannon, anything? No? Okay, no? All right, well. So let's open this for a public hearing. I know we've had the applicants come up, and we do have some letters from the Chamber of Commerce and from Golden. I heard the water companies here. It's up to you if you'd like to go up and speak in favor of the program, or we can just take your letter as written. It's up to you. You want to speak? Go ahead. You've worked really hard, so I know it's not, yeah, let's give you your dues here. And you too, if you'd like.
I will make it very brief, but thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm Paul Schubert. I'm the general manager with Golden State Water Company. We've been working on this project. I didn't realize quite that long. It's been quite some time. We're very excited about it. We think it's a great project. In Golden State, we've been serving in the Sacramento area for a very long time. We focus on community engagement, customer service, so again, we're excited to take on these new customers. And great answer on the SIGMA process. I'm glad you didn't call a friend on that one, so thank you. That was
Great. Okay, thank you. All right, and Marnie, we have the CEO of the Chamber of Commerce, who I happen to know has been up since 4:30 a.m. because she was texting me, so it's been a long day.
It has. Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the Commission. Again, my name's Marnie Sanders. I'm the CEO of the Chamber of Commerce, and I'm very thrilled to be up here tonight to endorse this project on behalf of the Chamber. I hear homes, I hear jobs, economic growth for our area, and to the Chamber, that's big stuff. And so I was here at the last meeting endorsing this project, and I just wanted to come up and reiterate that we strongly support what's going on with this project, and it's great for Sutter County. And I am in absolute awe of the work that's gone into this, the commitment, the sacrifice, the perseverance over the years, and the incredible talent and intelligence it takes to put this together. And Doug, I may have understood about 25% of what you said when you were up here, so thank you.
I'll try to do better next time.
Joe, I know you were here, and anyone else that wants to speak, we certainly will.
Great, thank you so much, Commissioners. Joe McClure, Executive Vice President and Chief Banking Officer with Golden Pacific Bank here in Yuba. And I've been 20 years in economic development, as well as banking and finance and healthcare in 3 different states. And I mentioned at the work session that communities that don't transform themselves and look forward and grow die. And I see this as a great opportunity, along with some other projects that are coming up, especially in South Yuba, that the planning that's gone into this, the housing, the job component is really exciting from a business standpoint. So as a business banker in town, as well as a resident here in Yuba, I think this is a great opportunity, and I strongly encourage you to move this forward to the county supervisors. Thank you.
Thank you. And I bet he leaves his business card for you in the back. Is there anyone else here in favor that would like to speak? Is there anyone here that is oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see you. And are we catching the names? Okay, I didn't. So far, good. Okay, good.
My name is Chris McKenzie. I am representing my family and my property adjacent to this property. We are, according to the map George had, our property borders the western border of this proposed area. And I have quite a bit of experience with those wells. You can't farm rice on the whole amount with the amount of water there is there, but I'm glad to hear that it takes less to grow rice than, or to grow houses than it does to grow water. So I have a couple concerns in that we are still a family farm. We're still owned by the family, even though we are in the specific plan currently. And my question is, or my concern is that this proposal will not change in any way our status, authorization, units, access, from our property, so that we still have what is in the general plan for our property. Or the specific plan, not the general plan, the specific plan for our property. That's one. Number two, will I be able to continue to farm? I'm too old, but my son is very ambitious and likes to be the fourth generation to farm that land to rice. And will we be prohibited from continuing to do that as a result of anything that's included in this paperwork or, this proposal? I am in support of the project. It should have happened a long time ago. My dad said when he farmed that property, this red dirt should have houses built on it and not that black gumbo, because construction-wise, it's almost impossible to build on that black dirt. But I wish I could farm it, and I wish I had surface water. It's been well water forever.
Okay.
I'm glad you're looking at the groundwater. The groundwater, I will tell you, is wonderful until the district across the road, on the south side of Rigo Road, decides to sell water, and they turn on those wells, then ours go to nothing.
Okay.
They're not as deep as your wells and don't have the but they will drop off about half in about a week.
Okay.
But anyway, the only other item that I would like assurance that it will not be impacted is that item, I believe it was C on the proposal, which was the repositioning of the access ramp to the Placer Parkway. It's my understanding the Placer Parkway is Placer County's project. They did their tier 1 EIR, and the route in Sutter County has never been approved by Sutter County, and this does not indicate tacit approval of a tier 1 study in Placer County. And I was told that until we get to tier 2, any tier 1 environmental problems won't be discussed, And the plan is the plan as far as Placer County is concerned. Sutter County hasn't approved it. And we don't want to make a tacit approval that extends beyond this development project.
Got it.
Any questions or?
No, well, stay there, Doug. I'm going to let you try to answer what you can, and or anybody here that can.
Certainly. So as far as land use changes, Mr. McKenzie's property, he was a participating landowner back in 2009. His property actually has specific plan zoning as well as the kind of the general plan designation for the specific plan. He has both. Not everyone was a participant. So some properties actually would still maintain the legacy ag zoning. And although they have the general plan designation for Sutter Point. So as far as land uses for Mr. McKenzie, there's no changes in land use for him. He still is under a tier 1 development agreement that was entered into in 2014. Can he still farm? Absolutely. That is, it was always envisioned that farming would be an interim use. And if Lakeside is successful, it might raise the value of his property, and he might change his mind of being a farmer. So at least adjacent to
or his son,
Sutter
anyway.
Point.
Well, this last year has taught us that dust and smoke can be a really bad thing.
Yeah.
Although there is no burning anymore for rice, it's annoying, and we've always found that as soon as people moved out in the country, our neighbors said, "You run tractors at night?"
Did we get all the?
So the other thing I want to talk about is Placer Parkway. If you look at the land use plan that was approved in 2009, actually it provides for Placer Parkway to come in through Sankey Road and connects with Highway 99, and that would ultimately be a freeway-to-freeway interchange at that location. It is viewed as a limited access area, so there was only, I think, probably one location within Sutter Point that would have access to Placer Parkway. The initiative came from the east because of the congestion on I-80, needing to get an expressway over to Highway 99 to get people closer to be able to shoot down into Sacramento for their jobs. The problem has been there's been no funding source for Placer Parkway. And so do I see it getting built in the near future? Yeah, it's being built. It's being started over off of the highway over there in Placer County, but it's not close to developing over in our neck of the woods. So it's going to be a while. But as far as did the specific plan provide for it? Yes. If you go to the land use plan, there actually is, it shows a location of Placer Parkway dropping down and coming through with an alignment on Sankey Road.
Okay. So are you good? Answer the.
Well, no, it's just that at the time of the Tier 1 EIR and whatever, no one paid attention to me that it's going through a floodplain and it's running not north, south, east, west like roads should go, but diagonally through all of my own personal farmland.
Got it.
Each basin. And all the wells are on one side of the parkway and all the farmland is on the other. All the farm equipment, storage, rice dryers on one side of the parkway, the land is on the other. Not a good deal.
Okay. Well, thank you for your comments.
But it's, they said, we'll talk about that at Tier 2.
Right.
Well, I just hate to.
I know. Well, and I think we heard
over me.
Right. I got it. Doug has got it too. Anything else?
I would say this project has no direct access to the north there. So as far as having an impact to Sankey Road,
then
it will not.
Be tacit approval that it's going to be exactly where they said it was.
Right.
Going out Sankey Road. Sankey Road's okay with me because it's out of the floodplain.
And that is the location shown on the specific plan.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. And I appreciate you driving up for this tonight too. Is there anyone else favor or want to speak? Okay, anybody against the project? Although he's not against the project. Thank you. All right, so then I am going to close the public hearing. Uh-oh, did you have a question?
Well, you brought up a point about selling the water that I guess I would ask George, how deep are you going to drill your wells? Because if, rice land, when you flood it, it recharges the aquifer, and without recharging the aquifer, and you're shipping all the water down on the sewer side, and you have the people next to you pumping lots of water may be an issue all of a sudden that it wasn't till Chris said that they're selling water. So that was just a question I have.
He's talking about the Plaza Group.
Okay. So
Go ahead, George.
So, Madam Chair,
Okay,
we would need him to go back up to the microphone to speak again.
yeah. So go ahead and answer. Would you answer the commissioner's question?
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Manuel, for the question. What I think Mr. McKenzie was referring to is when the Natomas Mutual Water Company, who is south of Rigo Road, has wells that impact his ag wells, but those are going to be at a shallower depth than the wells that we're going to be constructing for the municipal service. As to the exact depth of them, I can't remember. I'd like to call our civil engineer up if you'd like to get to the technical details, but we have drilled 2 test wells out there to test the constituents and the capacity of the wells. And so we're confident they'll be able to serve on a municipal basis. But if you'd like more details, I can have them come up.
no, that's fine. I was under the impression they were adjacent to your property.
Okay, yeah, no, they're on the other side.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, George. All right, so I'm closing the public hearing. No more questions from the commissioners. So I am open for a motion. Anybody would like to take that on?
Madam Chair, I would just ask that if a motion is made, that the motion, if it is for the recommended action, that it also include the revised findings as shown in the memo this afternoon, as well as the amended condition number 53 that was also reflected in the memo, and the additional transportation condition.
Did you get that? Okay, good. Here we go.
Okay, through the chair, I'd like to make a motion.
Yes, please.
Move that the Planning Commission recommend adoption of an addendum to the Sutter Point Specific Plan Environmental Impact Report together with a mitigation, monitoring, and reporting program prepared in accordance with the California Environmental Quality Act and the guidelines together with the findings and approval contained in the staff report. And I move the Planning Commission recommend the Board of Supervisors approve project number U-19008, Lakeside at Sutter Point Tier 2 entitlements, including an addendum to the Sutter Point Specific Plan, a rezone to provide consistency with the reconfiguration of land uses, approval of a small and large lot subdivision map together with a water supply assessment, amendments to the Sutter Point Land Use and Development Code and County Subdivision Ordinance, approval of master plan updates, and approval of Tier 2 development agreements based on the findings and conditions of approval contained in the staff report, along with the modifications received by the commission from staff this afternoon. Will that do it, Mr. Libby?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, it will.
Okay, do I have a second? Okay, so we have a first by Commissioner Dosher, a second by Commissioner Manuel. I'd like a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Manuel.
Yay.
Commissioner Dosher.
Yay.
Commissioner Marlar. Commissioner Stewart.
Yes.
Commissioner Shannon. Yes. Chairperson Silman.
Yes. All right, thank you very much. So that's done, and I appreciate all the time. Staff is always amazing, but this has been such a long process. And I think that Marnie said it well, a lot of talent in this room, and we're excited for it. I hope it goes to the supervisors quickly, and then we can move forward. Okay.
Can I make a comment?
Oh, we have a comment? Absolutely.
Just a brief aside. Don't be surprised if a guy in a white shirt up here doesn't present this as an example of an outstanding collaborative project at the University of San Francisco grad program. Just to let you know. No, this is fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
Something to be proud of.
And the amount of people that work to put this together to get a project as good as that, yeah, you'll see this presented someplace. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Madam Chair, I did want to say, although we pushed the documents out to you all electronically today, including the staff report, this is what it looks like as two-sided. So it takes a lot to make a project like this a reality. So, thank you.
You got it. All right. So thank you. We're going to carry on. I can't find my agenda. There's my agenda. Thank you so much. Good night, Marnie. We'll talk to you at 4:30 a.m. Okay. You know what? I do not have a copy of the agenda. I do have this, but I don't have what our next step is. Oh, wait, I got it. Oh, they're still talking. Okay, we're still in session.
Huh. No,
I blew that, didn't I? Yeah.
Well, what happened?
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that's okay. We're still in session. We'll be done in just a second. Farmer to farmer. Hold on.
Didn't get it.
Poor Marnie was falling asleep. Do you see her saying? Okay, so we miscellaneous business from commission or staff. Any reports from Yuba City?
None.
None? Anything live out? No. Okay.
Madam Chair, I was just going to let you know that the public hearing notice for the Board of Supervisors meeting, it was sent to the newspaper yesterday for Lakeside. It's going to publish this Saturday, and then it would, at this point, we'd be looking at a public hearing on November 17th.
Excellent. Nice Christmas present. All right, with that, meeting's over. Thank you.